So, Fred, welcome to the show. Could you tell us about the journey that has gotten you to this stage?
Well, I live in Miami, so I came up 95. Got here a little while ago, waited for a little while in the mess room and came here. No, so I've been at Kaseya about 10 years now. It's been a great 10 years for those in the room that are in the MSP space. It's a great industry. My background, just very quickly and very boring, I grew up in the great state of New Jersey. Anyone here is a Jersey guy or gal? Got to represent. We're used to drinking toxic water and stepping on hypodermic needles on the beaches, but we'll leave that aside.
But it's the Garden State.
It's the Garden State.
Yeah.
At some point in time, there was a garden in there once. Started my first company in college, first software company, started several, taken several over, sold them, gone public, and about 11 years ago, Insight Partners, who's the private equity firm behind Kaseya, I'd known them for a while. We started talking about Kaseya, the MSP space, and we decided to start the journey, and it's been an amazing 10 years.
Wow, you must have seen so much change in the past decade, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things that's super neat and super cool, and everybody in this room who deals in this space gets to experience it, we are in the middle of a massive macroeconomic transformation. What we're seeing is small to mid-sized businesses, companies of one person to maybe 500 or 1,000 employees. They're digitally transforming. It's a fancy Wall Street word to say that technology is becoming like the most important part of their business. So if we go to a dental office 10 years ago, we'd be lucky if there was a computer in that dental office, literally. Today, that dental practitioner, for that dental office of maybe 10 people, they spend more money with their IT and security service provider than any other provider they have. Marketing, legal, their accountants, et cetera. And the reason's simple. The dental office in this example is now a technology shop. You can't get your teeth cleaned if their systems are down. You can't get an x-ray because they're all digital. They can't answer the phone. They can't schedule an appointment. You can't get a treatment plan done. Everything is digital. Can't get a root canal. There's very few dentists that can do root canals without the giant digital scope that tells them where to go. So if you're one of the people who gets a root canal, I feel sorry for you. If your dentist is not using a digitally guided scope, run for the hills. But that dental office, if their IT and security is not functioning, they can't generate revenue. And that's only been 6 or 7 years. So looking at the dental industry is one of, I venture to say, every industry where that's happened. Construction companies. My little brother put a pool in. My little brother lives in New Jersey, and he put a pool into his house. And the company that put the pool in, they flew a drone over his property, and they had like a little robot thing go up and down in his backyard to take the measurements, to produce the information for the CAD system to design the pool. That construction company or that pool company is a technology company.
Amazing.
And they're all the same, and they all need IT and security to do it. So what we've seen at Kaseya is that transformation happening real time. You see it where the construction company puts their toe in technology, and now they're all about technology. We saw how COVID accelerated all of that, because it forced a modern workforce and different things happening. So it's been a crazy 10 years. Ransomware is now mainstream. 10 years ago, ransomware was maybe 5% of the room would even know what it is. And today it's a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise for many, many organizations. So see a lot of change.
I'd say it's even evolved to, I call it extortionware, right? It's the next step where they release your data on the internet if you don't pay. Yeah. So your company manages the endpoints of, from millions of people and millions of devices out there. And I wonder, what is it that keeps you up at night?
So, interesting question. What keeps me up at night? There's two kind of things that do. One is I run a decent-sized company. We have over 5,000 employees, so just the day-to-day of running a business like that, lots of things that we worry about. Do we have the right organizational structure, the right people? How are our customers doing? The business side of it. So that creates, that leaves for about an hour and a half of sleep. Now that other hour and a half of sleep is restricted by macro threats. One of the things that I worry about, not so much as the CEO of Kaseya, but as a citizen of the world who sees all this cyber stuff that happens, I'm very uncomfortable about the incentives that our society has created for cyber criminals. And it's something I think everyone should think about, regardless of me being, again, at Kaseya. I just happen to have a lot of visibility to it. If everyone thinks about what's happening with cybercrime, we have anonymous currencies out there, Bitcoin, Minerva, all these different kinds of currencies that are anonymous by definition. So anonymous currencies, one of the attributes of them, one of the attributes of being anonymous is anonymity. You can't track it. So most criminal activities are captured. The police or law enforcement follows the money trail to bring them to justice or to capture them. In countries that have strong law enforcement, like the United States, United Kingdom, most of Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, countries like that, it scares white-collar criminals or nonviolent criminals because the fear of getting caught is very real, because there's a limited amount of currency that you can physically hold. So eventually you have to leverage the banking system. This changes that. So there's a means of extortion that is very difficult, if not impossible, to follow the money. The second thing is the legislators around the world are a little behind the times, and that's normal. So the penalties for cybercrime are a slap on the wrist. You get more jail time and more fines if you take a gun and rob a bank at gunpoint and take $25,000 than if you take $500,000 through extortion from digital means. So there's limited law enforcement for a very easy way to extort money. And I think that the bad actors, and we have a big security business, we see these folks every day. Many people here are fighting those fights every day. The governments around the world have allowed businesses and consumers to fend for themselves. The FBI has limited resources, so it's up to people to fend for themselves, and I think it's a risk to our way of life. Because if you get to the point where cyber criminal GDP starts to eclipse traditional GDP and is done through anonymous currencies, which have no regulation, by the way, not a fan of regulation at all, but are not regulated and not controlled by any central entity, you can come up with a very, very quick destabilization effort. And it's something that that keeps me up at night. We fight against it, everyone here fights against it, but there are some incentive challenges that are quite strong.
Wow, that's well said. So you must be evolving your cybersecurity solutions constantly because, as you mentioned, this GDP is growing on the other side and they're investing. So how are you evolving to meet these challenges? So our approach, we have a cybersecurity business. It's a fairly large portion of our business. And our job is to provide the kit. So MSPs have the most advanced cybersecurity weapons, cybersecurity defensive weapons to combat the bad folks. And they have them at the lowest price possible. So how do we deliver that? We spend, I don't even know how much. We have probably close to 800 engineers working on our cybersecurity products and the integrations between them. We spend a lot of our time. So one of the strategies, our customers are MSPs. MSPs' customers are small to mid-sized businesses. Unfortunately, as many MSPs in this room will probably attest, most small to mid-sized businesses, they don't like to spend a lot of money. Not to mention MSPs are cheap too, but their customers don't like to spend a lot of money. So cybersecurity is not real. Let me take a step back. Cyber threats are not really real until they happen to you. Once someone experiences some kind of cyber attack against either their business or their person, it's a different reality. It's like everyone can understand what it's like to get mugged. Once you get mugged, it's a different experience. It's unique. So it's not always easy for MSPs to sell
the required levels of service to their customers to truly protect themselves. So one of the things that we do is by just a continuous effort to keep the price of our kit down, it allows our MSPs to have financial success even if their customers aren't always paying for the products because they're so cheap, the MSP can include it anyway. And the MSP can then deliver a truly protected solution even if that customer isn't sold, quite frankly, on paying for it just yet. So that's a big effort that we do. We're always acquiring the newest and latest. It's a battle. It's a battle of the good guys versus the bad.
And it's gotten more difficult, certainly with the pandemic, work from home, hybrid work, whatever you want to call it. You know, there was a time where you would throw a firewall around all the work and the firewall managed the important things of what got in, what got out, and now you don't have that because people are working from anywhere, everywhere, on bad Wi-Fi, good Wi-Fi, possibly compromised Wi-Fi. Who knows what they're working, what devices, right? So how's hybrid work changed the role of companies like yours?
So hybrid work has made the task of the cybersecurity defender harder. You just articulated why. It's also made the task of the cybersecurity criminal, scumbag, whatever you want to call them, a lot easier. The most common example I can think of is not everyone puts a firewall on their personal computing device. And they use public Wi-Fi. They look around, they don't see anybody in the airport right near them, so there's a false sense of security. Or they're on the airplane, or they're at a Starbucks. I mean, these little basic things that we all know we should use our own hotspot with a firewall. But you know what? It's a pain in the butt. VPN, yeah, it's a pain in the butt. So I think our job is to try to understand what are the pieces of kit that we can provide an MSP so the MSP can very easily deliver an out-of-the-box secured solution without minimal disruption to the experience. I think another piece to the equation is knowledge. You know, I just, if you think about technology in general, I'm older than a lot of people in this room, and I hate saying that, but many of us grew up at the very beginning of technology. Commodore 64, you know.
I learned to program on a Commodore 64.
Basic Pascal, right? That was
basic, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we all, going into the Sears and making the screen say your name up and down when you're 9 years old to impress your mom and dad. But there's a big generational gap between folks who didn't grow up thinking digitally and those who have grown up in the last 30, 35, 40 years where they do. You know, people had computers in their classes when they were in grammar school. I didn't have a computer in a classroom ever in my life. And even though I'm only 30 years old, I know it's hard to believe, but that's what you get in New Jersey public schools. So, but things like security awareness training, understanding that those of us that are providing the IT and security and I'm gonna say the computing experience, that 57-year-old dentist, they just don't know. You know, they didn't grow up with it. They don't think the way that we think. And things like, again, security awareness training is a big piece. Information content, just making the security first posture possible and making it not scary and making it not prohibitive.
I like that, security first.
Yeah, and that's it's unfortunately the reality, and security first is so important because, to use that dental example, that dentists, they have to be security first because if their applications are not available for them, their business shuts down because one of their applications is an X-ray machine. You know, like, or the, I don't know, the cleaning devices that the hygienists use, like those are digital, they're digitally connected devices. And if you're not security first, then your business might not be able to operate for an hour, a day, a week, a month if you experience an attack. So it's tough.
So we go from there to the world of AI, and AI is revolutionizing every business. And you know, if you start to put your mind to it, you think of all these terrible ways hackers can use it, such as marketing automation with extremely targeted messages to users. You know, if AI knows the name of your family members, your friends, and your interests, and it can also make photos, and it can take photos of you, and it can make new photos based on your old photos that are on the internet. You just think about the amazing amount of just malicious messages that can be sent out in a targeted fashion, and that's just one example of how AI could be used to hurt many of the organizations, the people that are managing in this room, but also their customers' computers, right? So how do you look at AI in terms of something to defend against, and also how do you implement it to kind of, I guess it's an arms race, to defend against this continuous attack?
I like the way you say arms race, because I think that's a perfect, I think, way of describing it. AI is a tool. A lot of people think about AI as the Terminator. You know, it's gonna come and take over the world, all of our systems, and destroy us all, and who knows, maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. I'm kind of praying and hoping that it doesn't. But for now, and for the foreseeable future, it's a tool, and like any tool, it can make whoever's using the tool, if they're using it properly, much more efficient and better at what they're doing. For the bad actors out there, it's a dream come true. So to the point earlier about being a technology person, most of the victims of cybercrime are people who are falling victim to non-technical issues. We call it social engineering or other types of issues. What AI is allowing them to do is, just as you said, to make them better, faster, smarter, and happen at scale that we've never seen. So the volume of attacks are just exponentially, not incrementally, exponentially increasing, and we see it in our data. Companies like Kaseya and a host of others, it's our responsibility to provide the defensive weapons for this room to defend the people that need to be protected. So AI is one of the tools that we use to help accelerate those efforts. So in our internal threat group, where we're creating threats to defend against for ourselves, we're acting as our white hat group is acting and leveraging these tools the best way we can, as I'm sure most security companies are as well. Our engineering team, our R&D team, we're using AI to increase the output and the quality of the speed of the technologies that we release. So if we can release 15 versions instead of 7 versions in a year, we can get that advanced functionality of the incremental 8 versions into the hands of our customers and our partners so they can start playing defense with better functionality. It's a race. It's literally what it is. I think the world is gonna see a couple of changes, and this room will see a couple of changes in the next several years regarding government regulation. I don't know what it is. We have a lot of conversations with folks in Washington and Brussels and just trying to stay aware of what's going on, but I think it's a pretty clear bet that we're gonna see regulation first of how IT and security service providers, MSPs, things that they must demonstrate that they are doing. It'll come in the form of various compliance standards. I also think AI is going to be regulated, managed, registered, some form of regulation, but it's gonna happen on the consumer side before it happens on the B2B side. I think AI will still be in the wild as it applies to B2B constituents for a longer period than consumers.
So you've been involved in a lot of M&A. What's your advice to an MSP or a company that's looking to maximize its valuation?
A seller, someone looking to sell. And I always think that way myself as well as an owner and operator of a company. How can we maximize the value of our business? I wish there was a better answer than what I'm gonna give. Maximize your cash flow and grow as fast as you can. It's a simple answer, and that's an easy answer. A lot of people say, can we make our books look a certain way? What if I position my business this way or that way? And that'll help maybe, round some errors. But 2024, buyers are smart. Everyone's doing diligence. Numbers are the universal communication language of business, and make sure the numbers are good. Now, what does that mean? How to go about doing that? If I'm an MSP, I want to maximize my value. There's several ways to do it. One, I can grow my top line. I can grow my top line by acquiring new logos, or I can get more spend out of my existing customers. Most MSPs are not focusing on the latter, and in the MSP's customer base, getting that customer to adopt advanced security, advanced other types of offerings, that's where I would spend my effort. On the cost side, there's two primary factors of cost for an MSP. The cost of labor to deliver the service, and the cost of the software kit that's used. So most MSPs that I speak with focus on making labor more efficient. Automation's a great way. If you acquire another $100,000 of monthly revenue and you increase your automation, you don't need to add labor to it, your gross margins go up. It's pretty obvious. The cost of the software kit to deliver a managed service, on average, is about 24-25% for an MSP. It's a lot. Our strategy at Kaseya is we provide a platform where everything the MSP needs is in one place, and we charge about half as much. I would encourage MSPs, don't think of yourselves as technology tinkerers. Look at the tools you use as the tools that can provide the most integration at the lowest price, because you have about 10% gross margin in there, which doubles your EBITDA. And that's the best way to create value for an MSP.
Well said. Thank you so much. Can you make one far-fetched prediction about the future?
Far-fetched prediction about the future. I got two.
Okay.
Two predictions. One of them, everyone who was in the MSP industry, world, everyone who's an MSP today, will be much better off 5 years than we are today.
Okay.
A lot of reasons why, but just at a high level. It's a competitive business. I talk to about 500 MSPs one-on-one a year. And business is competitive, it's hard. Getting labor is hard. Customers churn, they're a pain in the butt, everything's hard. The average MSP grew 15% 2023. Show me any business in the world where the average business grew 15%, and I'll show you one industry, the MSP space. How many restaurants grew 15%? How many funeral homes, how many dental practices they would kill for that? We are on the right side of a curve. It's hard, nothing's easy, but it's very hard. It's the right place to be. I told my nephew the other day, he's asking me career advice. I'm like, dude, I'll buy you an MSP. Like, what, are you nuts? Not to compete with anyone here, of course, but it's a great thing. The second so that's, I think, we'll all be better off. It'll be hard, it's not easy, but it's much better than owning a restaurant, a bar, a construction company, anything. The second thing I would say, and this is very self-serving. Second thing I would say is the MSP's lives will be even more better, if that's the proper vernacular. Kaseya is doing something. We're announcing something in about 9 weeks that I promise everyone sitting here will fundamentally change this industry and make everyone's financial profile and technical capability exponentially better.
Great.
And we're super pumped to do it.
I was going to ask you about your vision for the future of Kaseya, but does that encapsulate it, or is there any more?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're a relatively simple company. We have a platform, and that we believe that platform is the best way for MSPs to achieve the optimal financial results and the optimal service delivery results, which are very related. It's hard. Business is not easy. We've made lots of acquisitions. We have thousands of employees. Business is hard. And I think what allows Kaseya to have, the success that we've had is, first off, luck. But secondly, the company's universally focused on one thing, and that's MSPs and making them successful. And I think what we're talking about in the next 8 to 9 weeks is gonna just put the biggest dose of steroids into this industry that it's ever seen.
Fantastic. Is there anything I left out? Anything else you want to close with, or?
No, just thanks for having me. This is cool. Welcome to Florida. For those that aren't from Florida, Kaseya is headquartered in Miami. We're super glad to have you. Thank you for doing the conference in our state. We appreciate the business. And now I'm just super glad to be here, and I'm very lucky to be in this industry in 2024. We're just super blessed.
Great interview, thank you.